Hey, Mike, how you doing today?
Hey Kumar, it's nice to see you again.
Yeah, likewise. Um, so we're here for our Agile Shorts. Our was weekly. We're going to try to do it weekly, but chances are we probably won't be able to get together but once every 2 weeks, which is fine. It's still a chance for us to talk about topics that we're hearing, in our travels, working with our clients and our customers. And one that seems to come up quite often, at least over the past, I'd say 6 to 9 months, is this question. Really, it's from our clients, our students in our classes, and it's this: how can we better engage with our teams, our customers, our stakeholders in this distributed environment?
Yeah.
And certainly, it's not that we weren't distributed before the pandemic. However, now everyone is distributed and
Yep.
dealing with working from home. So what do you say to that? It's a big question. It's a big topic.
It is a big topic, and it's interesting because even in just the way that the way you stated the question, there's three different groups there, right? And there's context, both
Yeah.
situationally and in terms of the outcomes that you're looking for out of those conversations and interactions. And I think that maybe that's where it comes down to, is really around the interactions, right? And the complexity and the limiting nature of distributed communication, more so in terms of interaction, because we can communicate, right? We can email, we can text, we can phone, we can do different things, a lot Zoom, obviously. But that's different than just interacting. And I think,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Kumar, if you think about it in this way, but I know that we've talked about it a lot with folks, and there's kind of like three categories, right? Or three things you can do that can really help you to get improved outcomes out of your interactions. And that it really comes down to, having structured, unstructured, and just being able to learn more about things, right? And, you talk about structured and unstructured. You've got these structured situations where you've got your meetings, you've got your calendars, you do invites, you set up Zoom
Mm-hmm.
calls, trying to get video involved in things as much as possible, because that's about half of the interaction, that's receiving and delivering of messages, to get the accuracy and the value out of those messages you're trying to deliver and the outcomes you're trying to generate from the communication and collaboration. But I think that the biggest challenge, and maybe I'm not sure if folks really kind of think about it this way, is that unstructured, right?
Mm-hmm.
The unstructured part, I think, is where the biggest gap to overcome or to shrink is, in terms of being in a distributed environment like we are now versus being co-located, or at least on some kind of an interval,
Mm-hmm.
being able to interact
Mm-hmm.
together, not through digital means, right, of some sort. And I think that unstructured part is really where you have to spend more time and think about, how do I do that? How do I do that with my teams? How do I do that with my stakeholders, leaders and managers, and then customers, and other folks that you work with? You're probably going to do it differently with each of those groups,
Yeah.
because you're having different types of conversations, right? But that, I think, got lost. A lot of it
Yeah.
got lost, and a lot of what people are feeling are not the structured parts. They've got that all back into their calendars, and they've got the tools and the techniques and some improved skills now over the last 10 months,
Mm-hmm.
of working that. But I think the unstructured part is really where folks need to be able to kind of learn more about how to recreate that. How do I get that back? And how
Yeah.
much value was lost when we lost that ability to have a water cooler conversation, right?
Yeah, I was just going to say that. So by unstructured, you mean the chance encounters you have with people in the hallway or in the
Exactly.
elevator or at the water cooler, the proverbial water cooler, right? Where you're
Going to lunch
up with
together,
them.
right?
Hey, did
Getting
you watch the
coffee.
game? Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Did you watch the game last night? Those types of things, we just don't have that anymore. We're stuck in our home offices. And if people are lucky enough as I am to be able to work from home, and you are, be able to work from home, then we're stuck in our home offices, and the structured conversations still happen, the meetings. Although I have to maybe disagree a little bit that those people have figured out, because I think meetings have always been a problem.
Yeah,
and
that's
there's
true.
still a problem today. In fact, they're a bigger problem today because, you think about the typical person that's working from home. They are sitting at their desk going from meeting, or not going, the meetings are coming to them one after the other in rapid succession with very little time to sort of digest and take a break and, do any kind of thinking or any kind of actioning on the meeting that they came out of, because they're in the next meeting right there. And hopefully they're engaged. And I think the question here is, how can we better engage with our teams? I'll leave customers out for now, with our teams and stakeholders in this distributed environment. And you're absolutely right. I think it's both the structured and the unstructured that needs to improve. And I think the biggest challenge, I think it's easier to do the structured part, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Right. There are courses, like our facilitation course that's coming up next month, where we talk a lot about that, about the structured meetings and how you can structure better meetings, and how each and every one of us can be a better facilitator for these meetings. And have a clear, crisp agenda, and have some meeting etiquette where you start meetings 5 minutes after the hour or half hour and end them 5 minutes before the hour, to give people a break, a chance to stand up and get up and go to the home water cooler where there's no one there, of course, to talk to. The bigger challenge, and I think you hit up on this, is the unstructured. How do you recreate that? So
I think what you were mentioning there with the facilitation skills, that's critical across both types, right? It's right. Absolutely critical. And in the success, your outcomes, the value you get out of it, how much time and how efficient or effective you are with those types of interactions, really come down to those facilitation skills. I think those facilitation skills can help you in both. It's just a matter of structure and intent and outcome, right? Who's the audience? Who is it that I'm actually interacting with? What is it we're trying to interact about? But then the structure is really where the unstructured part comes in. I think, though, you hit on something really important. Getting good at facilitating in this environment is really, really critical. Yeah. You're going to be successful regardless of whether you've got your, let's call it cadence, for lack of a better phrase, your approach for both structured and unstructured interactions. You can be honing and getting better at that and improving. But if you can get your facilitation skills really, really kind of tight and you feel very comfortable with it, those realized gains and those interactions are going to come quicker. It's going to feel more comfortable. People are going to be more willing to have what you and I know is more effective ways to work, which is shorter interactions. Mm-hmm. It helps with the fatigue, right? Maybe more frequent, but definitely shorter and probably more patterned. Even the unstructured stuff can be a little more patterned when you don't have to talk as long, right? Yeah. It helps with fatigue. It helps give you those spaces and breaks. You talked about being together and co-located. We used to have to get up. You'd go to a meeting room, or you'd be at someone's, and to go to the next meeting, you had 5 minutes to go to the bathroom, get a cup of coffee. When you're at your desk, we're not doing that at home. You and I are talking to people, and they're not doing that, and they're absolutely burning out. Plus, they're using their drive time in to work and out of work. They're online, and then they're too close to their desk or their phone, and they're doing it on the couch while they're watching Netflix. It's so easy. There's no space. There's no space.
It's so easy to just get sucked into the grind of the day, and before you know it, you've been sitting for 3 or 4 hours. And it's only your bodily functions that remind you, oh, time to get up and go to the bathroom.
Or your dog.
Reminding
you, let me out. What are you doing?
Yeah, right? Exactly. So I definitely, I think the structured, it's a little easier. The unstructured, even the unstructured stuff isn't hard. It's just remembering, it's sort of being more mindful about where you are, physically, the space that you occupy in your office, in your home office, and being a little more empathetic to the people on the other side, and the people that you work with, every day, right? To check on them, just pick up the phone maybe, or another medium of conversation, and so that you're not always on video. Video is taxing. I don't know if you've found that being on camera all the time during the course of the workday is taxing.
Yes.
A human isn't used to looking at a two-dimensional space, right? That represents the other person. And it's hard looking at the screen all day anyway.
Yeah. It's interesting because you think about the dynamics of a meeting room. One thing I know that you and I have done with a few folks is, when you walk into a meeting, you walk in when you're interacting face to face, you walk in, you look at people straight in the eye. Hey, how you doing? How's your day going? You're sitting across the table from them or whatever. And then when the meeting starts, you turn to something, right? You turn to a screen, you turn to something, you open a book, everybody's focused on the content. That you can actually replicate that and get a little bit of the Zoom drag or the camera lag of being on camera all the time by actually recreating that scenario where you meet and greet at the beginning of a meeting with your cameras on, and then, okay, we're ready to get into the content. Turn your cameras off. You all get bandwidth back. We did it for some teams just for bandwidth's sake, but what we found is we got nearly as much value out of just seeing each other's faces to start the meeting and then to end the meeting. Or if someone was speaking, they would leave theirs on, like they would be standing up in front of the group, and everybody's focused on them anyways, even in a room. So why not do it on the camera? You can actually replicate that entire scenario. And it makes it a little bit, like you said, you can get off camera a little bit. You can have a drink. You can mute your mic and listen and focus, because it's really hard to focus with all this other doodah you're having to do to meet in this remote way, right?
No, I totally agree. I think it's always a good practice, and something we teach in our classes as well, is to have some type of an icebreaker at the beginning of every meeting, right? So connect the audience, the participants in the meeting to each other, number one, and also to the content and the purpose that you're having the meeting for, right?
Right.
Align on the outcomes for that meeting, whatever the purpose and the outcomes are for that meeting. And so you hopefully have a more productive meeting, and give people an option to leave if they don't have anything to contribute to that outcome.
Yes.
I think that's
either if it's valuable to you, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
It has to be, and you have to have something to contribute. And if you're busy, you have a deadline at the end of the day, and this meeting is going to prevent you from doing that, you have nothing to contribute, then leave. You're free to leave, right? And I think more organizations should make this the case, that the people that need to be there should be there. I think it's just human nature to invite everyone that you might think should be there, right? Or right. People forward the meetings on to umpteen other folks because, oh, you know what, I want this person there because they have some knowledge that I don't have. The thing is that before you know it, a 5-person meeting becomes a 20-person, 40-person meeting, and there's really no need. So a little tip for any kind of meeting, icebreakers are really key. State the purpose and the outcome. There's actually something we covered in class called the Power Start. And it really stands for purpose, outcome. The P is purpose, the O is outcome. The W is what's in it for me. So ensure that there's something in it for everyone in the meeting. What's in it for me? The E is engage. How will you engage, right, with the group? Not just as a facilitator. How will the group engage with each other? So having some quick ground rules set up for them to be aware of, be mindful of, is really good. And then finally, the R is roles and responsibilities. What's the role and responsibility for everyone in that meeting? And if they feel like, you know what, I don't really need to be here, it's okay to say, I don't need to be here, right? Exactly. Give them a right to pass. And that's for structured meetings. That's a really awesome way to start any meeting. And for the unstructured stuff, I think it's just getting in touch with your human side, right? We're all humans. Right. Getting in touch with, what do you need? What would you like, from your colleagues, from your boss, from the people that you work with? What would you like them to? How would you like to engage with them? And then paying it forward, right? Doing what you
Right.
would like to get, and then you will get it as well. My opinion. I don't know.
Yeah. And you can, it seems counterintuitive, but you can absolutely have a pattern structure around unstructured interaction, right? It's really about everybody understanding the ground rules, right? So I think it's really key is getting at and setting up and co-creating some ground rules. And I'm using ground rules just as a way to describe it. You can call it whatever you want. They're not hard coded or very strict things, but basically, how are we going to operate in a repeatable way, even though that it's unstructured? We understand how and when and why we're going to interact. You know, you and I talk about what, why, when, who, and how, right? And when you've got what, why, who, and when kind of down, it's easy to create hows. Hows come out of that very easily. So you can create very repeatable approaches that aren't hard-coded structures like they would be in structured setups, like on a calendar, but still feel very connected and still have that good contact, right? That good connectivity.
What would you recommend that people do? You know, thinking about unstructured meetings, what's one thing they can take away from this conversation that they can try today?
I would definitely, to the folks that you interact with the most and that you have the most critical relationships with, I would make sure to reach out to them and say, hey, we've got our sessions. We do a lot of talking. We interact a lot. What are we missing? Is there anything we're missing here? What are we not getting in this new environment that we were getting before? Or where do you feel like we're not hitting the nail on the head? And just have a general conversation about that, because the thing about unstructured is it's unstructured, right? It's not, you're not going for a specific purpose, but every group of individuals that you do interact with, there's going to be different reasons for having that unstructured conversation. So there's no reason to guess. You don't have to be the oracle and figure this all out on your own. Interact with them and reach out to them and say, look, there's this whole concept of unstructured communication and interaction that we may be missing. And I wanted to find out from you, is that something that you feel like we are missing, or do you feel like we're kind of covering the bases? Is there maybe a creative or an intuitive and innovative element of what we do that's missing because we don't have space to ideate, or we don't just call each other up on the phone or text each other and say, hey, what about this? Or we have that instant communication if you were sitting a couple doors down in a building, right?
No, that's really good. The only thing I would add to that is if you're a manager, a leader of any type, if you have people that depend on you in some way, shape, or form, right? I would set aside time just to even if it's a chat message, to just check in on them outside of the structured stuff that you do, and just check, hey Mike, how's it going today? Just as you would do if you were in an office, you might go walk by their cube and say, hey Mike, how's it going? Too bad those Browns didn't make it, huh? They came close.
So close.
But maybe next year. But those types of things that you lose, right? And maybe you have some of that in the beginning of your structured meetings as well, where there's a little bit of an icebreaker, where you get to shoot the can I say it on Facebook Live? Shoot the shit? I think I can say it. I just said it.
You said Facebook. It. We'll see if it makes it, right?
Yeah, right. I don't think there's anyone censoring this. So you get to shoot the shit a little bit. Of course, in a structured conversation, maybe you don't have time for that all the time, right?
Right.
But I would suggest as a quick takeaway, in addition to that, kind of a creative session where you, with your team, hey, what are we missing? Well, how can we improve? I would take it upon myself, if I was a manager, a leader, a scrum master, product owner, whatever it might be, just check in on people. It's what we do anyway. And it doesn't have to be video. It could just be a chat message or a text or an email or something, and just open the lines of communication so that you reestablish that connection, a human connection that we all need.
Well, and one thing you just mentioned that's critical to being able to do that is having enough time on your calendar to actually have the space to have unstructured communication. Right now, people are literally loading their calendars up back to back to back. And not only are they not giving themselves space between meetings, they're not giving themselves any space for these unstructured communications. There's no room. There's no breathing room. So managing that structured time and getting space in the ad world, whether they say, white space is golden, right? You got too much stuff on the pay on an ad or on a promotion, everything gets lost. Well, what showing that it's important means giving it focus and giving it attention. And that would mean making sure there's enough hours available in a week to have unstructured time, which means you're actually working with your people, especially if you are a leader, to help them figure out, how do you make that happen? How do I get space inside of my calendar so that when I have a thought, you and I can just talk about it, not at 8 o'clock at night, because it's when our last meeting ends, but actually during the workday when you should be talking about it,
and
right? So
these two things work so closely. They're so dependent on each other, the structure.
Absolutely.
Structure, right? So I think there's an onus on all of us to really examine our meeting life that we lead, right? And do I, the questions I would ask myself is, do I really need to be in this meeting? What value am I adding to this meeting? And if you
contributing, right?
Yeah. Right. What value am I adding, or what knowledge am I contributing? And if you can't answer definitively, really quickly as to, okay, this is why I'm here, then again, and maybe your organization won't allow this type of, you have to be there because you have to be there. But start asking those questions and start asking why you need to be there if you don't have to be there.
Well, that's the education part too that you mentioned.
That's right.
If people don't realize that you need this time, if you don't have an environment and a leadership group that's supporting this, then there's obviously there's ways to help educate them as well. So learn more about the value of these things. Learn more about the facilitation techniques that need to be that you can hone and tune. That's like getting good with the tool set, right? But being able to apply it means letting somebody allow you to use it, right? So getting folks to understand the value behind this, the why behind the what, and what it produces and what we're missing by not having this, will help you to start to show and maybe influence those folks to pair with you and to collaborate with you on making this a reality in your company or your organization.
Yep, I totally agree. And the facilitation class is coming up next month, February 8th. This isn't intended to be really a push for that. However, I will mention it because it's coming up in next month. And the thing about facilitation is this. So for the first probably 15 years of my career, I don't know how many meetings I had to facilitate, and I was awful at it. I was a pretty good employee. I was pretty good at my role, whatever I did.
That must have been pre my days, because you're fantastic at it now.
Thank you. Well, the thing is that it is a skill. It is a very useful skill.
Very
in
much
fact,
so.
It's a foundational skill that I think everybody should have or should develop. Everyone's capable of it. Not everyone has been through any kind of formal training on how to be a facilitator, a good facilitator. And so I feel it's foundational to leadership. It's foundational to coaching. It's foundational to managing. It's foundational to just about any role that you play. If you can't facilitate well, then you're missing out. Really, you are. You're missing out on future opportunities.
Facilitation in the knowledge worker space in the world that we're in right now is just as critical as learning how to use an arc welder if you're a welder, right? It's learning the tools, it's learning how to use them well, and then when you get the opportunity to use them, you can do amazing creative things with it.
Yeah.
But there is a technique and a skill to be learned, and you're right, it is a skill that needs to be added to your existing toolkit of great things that you do and to excel.
Yep.
in this trying time.
I totally believe that. And we're running out of time here. We wanted to make this no more than 15 or 20 minutes. So I hope you enjoyed this talk. and we'll come back in a week or two and hope to hear from you. So please leave your comments below, and your questions. What do you have questions about? I've been in the agile coaching space for probably 15 years now. Mike, I don't know, how long have you been coaching?
About the same time, yeah.
Agile
Lean even longer, yeah.
Yeah. I used to run restaurants before that, so I've been around, service industry, coaching industry, management, leadership. Yeah, we if there's a question we can't answer, then certainly that will be fun, right?
We'll learn alongside you. We'll learn right alongside.
Try and stump us. I mean, there's probably a question we can't answer, but I don't know. I haven't come across one yet. So leave your questions, leave your comments, and join us in a week or two. Definitely in 2 weeks, maybe as early as next week. We've got a list of questions that we'd love to be able to go through with all of you. Anything else you want to end with, Mike?
No, I think this is great. It's been great talking with you, Kumar, and I enjoy and appreciate every opportunity we get to do this.
Yeah, same here, Mike. I will see you. We work together, so I will see you. We'll do one of those unstructured calls here in a few minutes.
A quick follow-up. What do you say? What do we?
Yeah, that sounds good.
We got a minute. Yeah.
All right.
Exactly.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Take care.